something I don't really talk about too often, which is talking about like tournament rule sets and stuff and my opinions on it. And I want to talk to you today about cross-region tournaments and my thoughts on it. Now, the gameplay in the background doesn't really have anything to do with this topic. I just put it in the background so you guys have something to watch while I kind of discuss my thoughts, podcast style. And none of this is directed like at the TOs or anything. Like I'm just purely talking about it. Like that's the big disclaimer. I just want to talk about it and like share my thoughts with it and see what everyone else thinks about this topic because it's not really brought up too often. Hey there, today I'm doing a bit of a different video because I want to talk to you guys about cross-region tournaments for Demon Slayer. I just lost a really close set in a cross-region tournament, and it got me thinking about something that doesn't really get talked about enough. How these events actually affect competitive integrity. Before you say anything, this isn't me calling out players or anything. If you win, I guess, but I do think the environment we're playing in isn't always equal and at a high level, and that matters to me. In cross-region matches, both players are not playing under the same conditions. That's just the reality of online play in a cross-region tournament. The game has to sync two people who are really far apart, and it can't perfectly equalize both sides. One of the biggest factors is latency. If you're playing from NA into EU servers or vice versa, your input takes longer to register compared to someone closer to that region. At casual play, this might not matter much, but at a high level, where matches are decided by really small interactions in a game like Demon Slayer, or really small mistakes, like one punish or one interaction that doesn't go your way, that delay actually changes outcomes way more than you think. And that's the key part. I didn't get blown out. I lost by a tiny margin. When it's that close, even a slight bit of delay, aka missing a reaction or being a few frames late, can be the difference between winning or losing in this game. That's where cross-region starts to feel less competitive and more situational, to be honest. Depending on how the servers and routing work, one player often ends up with a smoother or more stable connection than the other. And I'm not saying that's intentional. I'm definitely not saying EU players are doing anything wrong. But in some cases, they can just end up playing closer to their normal conditions than someone connecting from farther away, like me, for example, from North America to Europe, like I played in today. The bigger issue for me is consistency. Competitive play should be about who's better, not who adapts to unstable or even connections. When the connection isn't consistent, it introduces randomness, and that's not ideal if we're trying to take competition seriously. I've also seen situations where matches get interrupted mid-game, whether that's connection issues or something else. It creates weird scenarios where the momentum gets broken or games reset. And again, I'm not accusing anyone, but it's just another example of how the system itself can affect the outcomes of a match. It's not the EU player's fault, it's the distance. But I don't think that putting the EU players with the NA players is a great decision right now, to be honest, just based on how the game is. Because the game's netcode is horrible. Like, the game is not meant for cross-region. That's why a lot of the more serious tournaments, like the $1,000 tournament, or some of Glapu's tournaments, weren't cross-region. They were locked to EU only, just for example, because the game can't really handle cross-region, and it kind of affects competitive integrity. And I think cross-region tournaments are great for participation, but if we're talking about competitive integrity, there probably needs to be more structural, like region-based brackets or better rules around connections and interruptions. Or, you know what I mean, like, we only have 1 or 2 tournaments now, like a month now. Like, we don't really get too much tournaments anymore because Demon Slayer is kind of dying out. And it sucks because I really do want to play this game. It's one of my favorites, and I've tried to get good at it. I want to be the best, but it's really hard to do that when most of the high-level matches I'm getting are just a lag fest because I'm fighting a person across the world from me when I could be fighting someone, like, closer with a better connection. I feel like there's a better way to run something for both NA and EU players where they both get to play, like maybe region lock tournaments for both, but I'm not the TO, so I don't get to make that decision. I'm just thinking out loud right now. Now I'm going to show you a clip of how EU players directly affect gameplay.
And so we did the most lovingly absurd thing and actually got married that time. And he naturally...
So in this tournament, I was in semifinals. I was about to be in grand finals again. And I really wanted this. I really wanted to win a second tournament. And I'm up against an EU player. And they weren't even supposed to be playing. They were just let in randomly. I don't know why. So I was forced to deal with this connection, sadly. And it was kind of demoralizing, but I just went through it. And I managed to get 2 games, so it was 2-2 tied up. But as you notice, Susumaru starts doing a pressure sequence on me that you're supposed to perfect guard. And as you can see here, I'm not able to perfect guard it because of the connection. And you've seen my gameplay. I could perfect guard that in my sleep, like easily. But this time around, I just couldn't because I was dealing with 3-second delay. And sadly, I lost the game because of it. And there's not much I could do. It's like an option to deal with something was taken away from me. And I don't think that's great for high-level gameplay. Like, I shouldn't have to worry about an option I've learned and mastered to get taken away because of something out of my control. And I feel like that's easily avoidable if we avoid doing cross-region tournaments in the future. But as I said, I'm just recommending stuff. I'm not the TO. But TOs, if you're listening, you guys are great. Thank you for all the tournaments you've hosted. I'm just speaking out loud at this point, you know. But now you may be wondering, how does EU have an advantage over NA? And at first, I didn't think there was an advantage in play either, but apparently EU has it a bit better than NA. I found out via testing and stuff like that. I always like to test these things in case it happens to me in tournament. And luckily, I was able to do some research and just basically looking into it and testing things with my EU friends and stuff like that. And doing like research on how things work in EU. EU has way more centralized servers packed closer together, so more players are getting consistently low ping. In NA, the player base is spread across huge distances, so it's a lot of people are just kind of stuck on higher ping by default. If you're playing cross-region, NA players are way more likely to be at a disadvantage. An EU player connecting slightly farther still has better average routing than someone playing across NA, because of how packed EU can be. It's not just about having low ping, it's about having stable ping. EU's players are more likely to have consistent connections, while NA players deal with more fluctuation depending on distance and routing. Europe has a really dense internet infrastructure between countries, so its routing is often more efficient in NA. Traffic, like, sometimes has to travel way farther between nodes in NA, which adds delay. In EU, you're more likely to match players with similar ping ranges. In NA, matchmaking can throw you into games where the connection gap is very noticeable. In a game like Demon Slayer, where timing and reactions matter, even small delayed changes about how moves connect and how punishes work and how consistent combos can feel can be a big issue. It's not about one region being more skilled, it's about one region playing under more consistent conditions. EU isn't necessarily better, it's just playing on easier settings when it comes to connection. NA just isn't one region, it's basically multiple regions forced into one. West, Coast, Central, East, those distances are huge compared to EU. If your everyday matches are on worse or inconsistent ping, your practice is just worse. You're not even practicing the same game as someone on stable connection. When people look at online tournaments and say EU is dominating, they're not factoring in that connection plays a huge role in those results. Higher ping can actually favor certain playstyles, like more aggressive or match-heavy options, because reacting becomes harder. If anything, NA players are forced to adapt to worse conditions, which makes it harder to be consistent. The real test is offline. That's where connection is equal, and that's where you actually see pure skill. But we only have one online or offline tournament, and that is going to be EVO in June. So we're going to see what Demon Slayer looks like without the crappy netcode finally. That's going to be pretty cool. But to be honest, it's not just players. Viewers feel it too. Dropped combos, weird interactions, it make matches look sloppier than they actually are. At the end of the day, it's not about excuses. It's about acknowledging that not every region is playing under the same conditions. Imagine 2 players of equal skill, but one is playing at 20 to 30 MPS? Or MS, sorry? I don't know what I just said. MPS? Dude, I need to get some sleep. What am I talking about? Anyway, 20 to 30 MS, I meant. Lower ping every match over time, and that's not small, that's an advantage. Like, this doesn't mean NA can't compete, it just means the playing field isn't very equal in a cross-region environment. And the reason I bring this up is, 1, I've been slacking on content lately, I'm sorry. And 2, I don't really do these videos too often where I just give my thoughts on something. And I do care about the competitive integrity of this game. I've been in many tournaments. I've even won one, don't mean to brag, even though I kind of do. And what matters to me most is whoever wins off of skill and not random elements or unforeseen circumstances, you know? Like, I just like it when it's like good old-fashioned, like, skill-to-skill fight. And cross-region, it's really hard to, like, test myself and improve because of how, like, random it feels at times. In NA tournaments, it feels way better because I get to, like, fight in consistent ping, unless it's someone with, like, an old chopped LAN cable, but we'll get into that in another video. And that's honestly my thoughts on it. And again, I'm not like attacking anyone, like any of the players or any of the TOs. I'm just sharing my thoughts on cross-region tournaments because I know a lot of people are against it. A lot of TOs are against it, but they've become kind of the norm lately. And I just thought I'd share my opinions on it. And I thought I'd just, do a different video for a change. But yeah, that's about it. See ya.
I hardly use my full strength.